I'm currently on the phone with Troy. He's another one of the musicians that reached out about the interview series that's going on. So I'm going to go ahead and give him the opportunity to introduce himself.
All right. I'm Troy Richardson. I'm a songwriter, vocalist, and bass player. Um, Started playing while I was growing up in Minnesota. I applied to Berklee College of Music in Boston and was accepted. I stayed there for 4 years, leaving with a degree in songwriting. I was playing in bands in Boston from the time I was in college, so I stayed around and did that for quite a number of years. I was in Boston for 17 years total, and then had an opportunity to move to Los Angeles, where and I took that opportunity. So I've been here for a while, and now I'm doing music on this coast.
Excellent. So I always like to start kind of in the beginning, when you first identified with music and, how it first entered your life and what about it really kind of, latched onto you and made you feel like it was what you wanted to do.
Yeah, I like most kids probably bounced around thinking of wanting to be something or another. But two things. One, I was a latchkey kid, so and an only child, so I'd come home after school and have the house to myself. There weren't a whole lot of kids my age around, and so I watched a lot of TV. What was on immediately after I got home from school each day was the Monkees. So I watched absolutely every episode of the Monkees, and that seemed like uh, like a pretty cool path to follow. It looked like they were having fun. The other thing along with that was my before I lived with my mom and her second husband, I lived with my grandparents. My grandpa sold forklifts for a living, and probably the only cool thing he did was play guitar a little bit. So I had a very strong connection with my grandpa, and so I probably gravitated to guitars rather than selling forklifts for some reason. And one thing with that was he gave me my first guitar for my 9th birthday, and he was very proud. Gave me this guitar. He was so excited for me to play and everything like that. Either he had a natural ability on guitar, which I kind of doubt, not because of his ability, because I don't think anyone really does, or he forgot that over the course of his life, people had shown him this is a G chord, this is a C, and this is this song or whatever. And, he was in the Army in World War II and all of that, and was stationed all over. So he told me, here's a guitar. You just listen to music and you play back what you hear. Listen to the radio. If you like a song, just listen and play it. Okay. And yeah. So being 9 years old, I tried to do that. I mean, as we all know now, you can't hand someone a guitar and expect them to tune it, much less start playing things. But so I thought, oh, I guess I just can't play guitar if that's the way it is. So the guitar sat around for quite some time. Well, I guess a few years. When I got into junior high, I discovered there were things called guitar lessons. So I got my guitar and started playing. And yeah, that's the way. Those two things are probably what got me started in music.
Sure. I could definitely see how that would be demoralizing when your grandpa's just like, oh, you just do it. And you're like, but how?
Yeah.
Sure. So once you did kind of have the lessons and starting to realize that you can learn it on your own.
Hmm.
How did you start like getting into the creative process? Did you start like learning some of the songs from your favorite bands, that type stuff? What was your next step to actually like master the instrument?
Um, yeah, yeah, I learned a few songs that I wanted to play, and I only took I took lessons in school as part of a guitar class twice, semesters, and um, then did a few private lessons. Uh, I um, yeah, I guess I was more self taught than anything. Then the other part of the process was there were a lot of songs I couldn't figure out, so I started writing my own songs. Like really, I couldn't figure anything else, so I was like, well, I guess I'll write my own songs because at least I'll know them and I can play those. So
Hmm.
I started doing that, and also uh, I w- I started having creative writing classes
Hmm.
and stuff like that. So words were also they pale in comparison to the music part of my life at that time. But it was that was another thing that was going on with me.
Okay. And then, so for having kind of what seems like kind of, a passing interest in learning an instrument, to going to, Berklee College of Music, what was the transition steps there that really kind of, set the tone that that's what you were going to do?
I um I took it step by step, and I wouldn't say that I was dead set on being a professional musician or having a career when I went into Berkeley. I thought a couple of things. I didn't want to be an older guy sitting in my backyard wondering if I could have made it in music. I
Mm-hmm.
definitely wanted to take a shot at it, and if I fail, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
At least I tried. Also, I there were a lot of people when I was growing up, and my first jobs were all in restaurants, and the the people around me, I was surrounded by, I'd say kids a little older than me, like, in their 20s or whatever, 20s, 30s, um, people
Mm-hmm.
um, who took one semester off to
Mm-hmm.
save up some money. Then they were going to go back to college. And that became a year, a two, three, 5, 10 years for some people.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to start college immediately right after high school and do my very best to not quit because I knew people a lot of times didn't go back.
Mm-hmm.
Going in, uh, there wasn't really anything I wanted to do more than music, but um, and I guess that's the thing. I was just thinking I should get a college degree because if you're growing up, middle class, lower middle class, or anything like that, it's go to college because then you have to get a decent job. And one thing was I could not fathom 4 years of anything besides music. Like maybe I kind of liked math, so maybe I was like, oh, that feels like 2 years. I think I have 2 years in me in math and maybe English or something like that. Maybe I
Mm-hmm.
could do four in that. Kind of feels like three or something like that.
Sure.
So I thought one way or another, I'm pretty sure um, I can get through 4 years of college um, doing music. The other thing is that I think going in, really all I wanted to do is like get good enough to play in a band that played bowling alleys in Minnesota or something like that.
Sure.
I didn't have some lofty goals. I just wanted to like maybe be in Minneapolis and have someone recognize me once in a while. And I mean recognize me like, hey, didn't you play the bowling alley the other night?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Because I thought that was all pretty cool. So I was paying for college all myself. So there was no reason for me to keep going other than I wanted to. There's no one forcing me or anything. So I kind of thought, oh, I'll keep looking for a gig. If there's a band who wants a bass player, I started playing bass about a year after I started playing guitar, so that's my
Mm-hmm.
primary instrument. Um, I if there's a good gig, I'll just do that, and I won't go back to college. And so year one to year two, the gig that I would quit going to college for kind of got better. The threshold got higher. Like I auditioned for a band that was on a major label, and their old bass player came back, so that never happened.
Mm-hmm.
So going after my second year, that was the caliber of band that I'd have to get into to quit school. And by year three, I'd already done 3 years. If I don't go for the fourth, that's just stupid. So so then I didn't think about that.
So that brings up, kind of the next question of, once you did get out of college and then kind of where you are now, you had mentioned that you just moved across the country to the Los Angeles area. So what was the motivation for that move?
Honestly, I met a woman, so and she
Mm-hmm.
was in Los Angeles. Um, so there was that. I worked for a
Mm-hmm.
company that facilitated the transfer, meaning they didn't pay for it. They didn't care where I worked, but
Mm-hmm.
I could have a job in another state.
Okay.
So that was an opportunity that I wanted to take. And then apart from that, um, I've been in Boston for a long time, and I knew every venue and every booker and pretty much every musician, and I could just see doing the same thing for 5 or 10 more years and not getting anywhere.
Okay.
Um, it was just kind of treading water and kind of like going down the same path over and over again. I felt like I was going in circles, so I wanted to get a fresh start.
Sure. I guess I don't exactly know what the music scene in Boston is. The most notable act that I know from Boston is the Dresden Dolls. But aside from that, how would you kind of describe the rest of the Boston music scene?
It was cliquish. It was each style was kind of separated. Um, there was a kind of a heyday. Boston has a lot of heydays that kind of come and go and all of that. There was, say the Aerosmith era, the
Mm-hmm.
Cars, Boston, all of that. Then there was a time in the '90s, like Amy Mann till Tuesday,
Mm-hmm.
um, and then Letters to Cleo, Tracy Bonham. A lot of bands were signed by way of Fort Apache, which was a studio that had their own label. There was a few on Imago, and um, there was an indie label, Curve of the Earth, that had some heavier bands. So I guess I kind of was coming in at the tail end of anyone doing anything big out of Boston, and then it was subsiding around 2000 or something like that. So
Mm-hmm.
um, anyway, so it was good. The city is so dominated by colleges
Mm-hmm.
and college age people that um, there was kind of two divisions. There was kind of like college and all of that, and then there was kind of there's no other way to say it other than like old people music. Like,
Okay.
and that was a lot of punk rock and stuff like that too, garage
Mhm.
and punk, and it wasn't, easy listening or anything. It was just, it was the scene before, and those people kind of hung together.
Mhm.
So after you turn 30 in Boston, it seems as though a lot of opportunities kind of start falling off
I
rather
see.
rapidly. And whatever people say about Los Angeles, I will say I have had more opportunity to play live music here than ever, that I ever had in Boston. People care less about how old anyone is here, believe it or not. Um, and everyone here is really much more supportive, um, than in Boston at that time in the scene that I was in. I don't want to, say
Of course, of course.
Boston was terrible, but
Right.
I will just say that I mean, here my band will play, and other bands that we've played with on different bills at different venues or whatever, they will come and see. They liked us, and they will come and see us at some other place.
Mhm.
I can't remember any band friends ever going to my shows. Everyone was in their own little world.
Mhm.
Again, at that time, as with all of us at the age we were, I don't know, maybe that's going on in LA too. I gravitated to a more supportive little corner of the scene.
Well, on that note, let's talk about the project that you are currently doing. So, are you putting together your own project that you're fronting, or are you a part of a band at large? What kind of music are you doing now?
I'm right now have a band called Trucker Bomb, and I front the band. I'm the lead singer, and when I well, my last band in Boston, I also fronted, and it was my band. When I came to LA and didn't have that responsibility, I just started auditioning as a bass player to play in other bands. And as that started, I was like, "Oh, this is so much better. I just tell me when to show up, and I'll play bass, and then I get to leave, and I don't have to worry about the songs or rehearsals or anything like that. I didn't have
Hmm.
to do that kind of work, all that responsibility." So I did that for a while. I was in, you know, 5 or 6 different projects at a time. You know, there'll be one getting started as one is kind of fizzling out, and
Hmm.
so it was uh, it was easy to do a lot of stuff, as long as I kept my calendar up to date and doing that. And then after a while, uh, I got down to one band that I was playing bass in, and when that ran its course, um, from from the auditions that I've gone on and different projects I've been a part of, once again I was getting back to I sing as well as almost anyone that I know. My songs are just as good as anyone's. There's no reason for me to not do this.
Hmm.
So uh, I had the last project was kind of like a dark alternative kind of gothy pop, um, band, and because I do like that style.
Hmm.
But while I was doing that, I had a lot of material that I was working on that wouldn't fit into that, and so the catch-all for all of it was kind of the Americana genre.
Hmm.
So I formed a band around that, and it was a little interesting calling booking agents who knew me from as the bass player for a goth kind of band and saying, hey, I'm singing, playing bass, and it's kind of country-ish. But they took a chance, gave me a night, and everyone seemed to like what we were doing, and we're still doing it.
Excellent. Um, so we'll get to the putting out links and everything, so you can tell everybody where to check you out. But what are some of your like absolute favorite memories of participating in music, whether it be recording a song or seeing one of your idols?
Let's see. I have, um, yeah, I suppose real quickly. Uh, Before I left Boston, I got into a fairly big band that survived for all of 3 months after I was in it. I was the sixth bass player, and I've I've noticed to see the signs when there's five or six bass players and five or six drummers in the course of a band's career that you could be getting on something that's nearing the end. But they were popular, and one of our last shows was I want to say, like, if you see a movie and there's a band playing and everyone in the audience is just losing it over the band, like, because the camera's on and everything. That never really happens for real. Um, Except it did at this one place, this one bar uh, in Worcester, of all places. The singer had to calm the crowd down at one point, so that was crazy to play there. Recording, I can't think of a specific great memory, but collectively, what I really love about recording is you have a song and you play it, you rehearse it, you bring it in. It adds a new element to it, and there's songs that I didn't think much of. Well, I mean, I thought enough of them to record them, obviously, but I was like, this is, yeah, this could be something. And then they come alive in the studio. There's something there that wasn't there before. So that's really exciting.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then for recent live shows, I'd say after taking a year off during the pandemic, uh, Trucker Bomb played a Wednesday night at Maui Sugar Mill in Tarzana, and it had been a year and didn't know really what to expect, but everyone came out to see the band. It was very much like the show in Worcester of people losing their minds
Awesome.
in a little club. So that was also a very good memory.
Very cool. So what are some links where people can check out your stuff and, click on your face and listen to your music?
Let's see. Well, we have truckerbomb.com. Uh, I had kind of the vision for the band about 2 years before I got it together, and someone else owned the domain, some kind of like sort of a second tier blue collar comedy kind of guy had truckerbomb.com.
Oh,
So I
geez.
had to wait for it to be available. It was 1 year and then 2 years. He was renewing, and then he finally let it lapse. And
Mm-hmm.
so I could get it for $15 instead of, whatever. So
Mm-hmm.
if I couldn't get the .com, the band would have had a new name, but I did.
Okay.
So truckerbomb.com will have links to everything, but we are the only Trucker Bomb on Spotify and Pandora. Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, we're at Trucker Bomb Band.
All right. And then I always like to give the person that I interview the opportunity to put out their last word. So just a message that you feel you kind of resonate with.
Hmm, my last words. Okay. Um, I'd say doing music, I always think of what is the experience that I want to have with whatever I'm doing. If you don't worry about getting famous or whether someone likes what you do or hates what you do or anything like that. You make music from a very honest place, and it's great to create something that was not in the world before. Like, who gets to do that? If you make if you make pencils for a living or something, you're going to make a pencil that's very much like another pencil that has been out there. But every song, no matter who could potentially sue you over it, each song is a unique thing with a little bit of a unique viewpoint, and it's something that has not existed in the world before.